Can you sing along the 5 Pusha T records right now? His records.
Yes.
His records?
Yeah.
Name
I love
them.
Pusha. Nostalgia.
Oh, you was a Pusha T fan.
You know,
I didn't know he had fans like that. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? No, his records. Pusha T, I love your soul, my dog. You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlamagne's top 50 and things like that. But you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like, I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment in my life. I never thought, like, you dig? Like, where I'm from, niggas want to be like you if you was really...
Oh, here we go again. Another day, another rapper trying to go viral by poking the wrong bear. Jim Jones really woke up and said, yeah, today feels like a good day to disrespect Nas. Like, bro, that's not just risky, that's career suicide with extra sauce. Let's rewind. Jim's sitting in an interview, talking reckless, acting like the world's forgotten who Nas is, the literal architect of lyricism. That's like saying Michael Jordan didn't really influence basketball because you play 2K on rookie mode. Be for real. The internet did what it always does, exploded. Fans were like, Jim, blink twice if you're doing this for clicks. Because deep down, everyone knew, you don't speak on Nas unless you want smoke. Not the kind you can roll up, the kind that burns reputations. And just when the chaos started boiling, who steps in? None other than Pusha T, hip-hop's silent assassin. This man doesn't even need to yell. His bars do the talking. His calm is scarier than most rappers' threats. You know you messed up when a guy known for dismantling people in 2 bars or less decides to speak softly. That's not mercy, that's precision. Pusha didn't drop a diss track. He didn't go live. He just spoke facts. And when Push speaks, hip-hop listens. Because behind that quiet voice is a man who's built an entire empire off skill, respect, and codes. Meanwhile, Jim's out here trying to rewrite the textbook Nas literally wrote. It's almost poetic. The same Jim Jones who once begged for industry respect, now downplaying the very legends who made his lane possible. The irony writes itself. Fans on TikTok and X weren't having it either. One user said, Jim dissing Nas is like a student roasting his teacher mid-class. We all just watching him fail in 4K. And then came the moment that shifted everything. Pusha drops a cryptic message. Certain rappers forgot what this culture is built on. Respect the pen that fed you. No names, no tags, just a dagger in tweet form. And the internet instantly knew who it was aimed at. That's when the timeline flipped upside down. Fans were reposting old Nas bars, memes were flying, Reddit threads looked like eulogies for Jim's credibility. You could practically hear the collective bro echo across the culture. And here's the wildest part. Pusha didn't even need to raise his voice. That's the power of real legacy. It doesn't scream. It just sits back and lets the truth echo louder than any clout chase ever could. But trust me, this is just the opening act. Because what comes next? Yeah, it's where things really start to burn.
No, but you know...
You don't like Ace Trumpets?
What's so great about it?
It's so good.
It's good?
It's so... Oh, man.
It's good?
So, yeah, there's something going on that you ain't tell us about, bro.
It's good and what? A nostalgic value of it?
You don't think Ace Trumpets is
hard? I don't believe them.
Oh.
But that's a whole nother story. I don't want to downplay nobody's craft or their music. I want to uplift everybody and things like that. But I don't listen to their music. I never have.
See, this is what separates real legends from internet talkers. Pusha didn't need a diss track or a shade-filled live. Man just dropped 1 bar, and it felt like an entire funeral service for Jim's credibility. That respect the pen that fed you line? Bro, that wasn't just a quote. That was a thesis statement on the death of clout chasing. It hit harder than a Kanye bass drop in 2005. Fans instantly knew this wasn't just about Jim Jones. It was about every rapper who forgot hip-hop was built on respect, not retweets. Within hours, social media looked like a cultural courtroom. TikTok was filled with people saying, "This is how you end a man," without even naming him. One viral post even said, Pusha didn't respond, he educated. And honestly, facts. Because while Jim was out here auditioning for relevance, Pusha was giving a masterclass in maturity. What makes it even funnier is that Jim's been on this chaotic PR tour for months, throwing shots at every legend with a pulse. First Pusha, then Mace, now Nas. Like, does this man wake up every morning and spin a "who should I disrespect today" wheel? Fans were clowning him heavy. One tweet said, Jim Jones talks about legends the way freshmen talk about seniors after getting dunked on. Another said, bro's been chasing controversy harder than he's chased a hit since 2010. Brutal. And here's the thing, it's not even that Jim can't rap. It's that he's starting to sound like that one uncle at the cookout who keeps reminding you he used to be lit, while everyone's just trying to enjoy their food. Nostalgia's cool, but desperation? That's not drip. Meanwhile, Pusha's energy was chess, not checkers. Calm, focused, surgical. That quiet tone? That's the confidence of someone who doesn't argue with noise. He's the type to let his discography speak while his enemies drown in their own echo chamber. The contrast was wild. Pusha represented legacy, Jim represented loudness. And in hip-hop, loud doesn't last. Legends do. Even the fans knew it. Reddit threads were filled with comments like, "This is why Pusha T's one of the last real lyricists left. He moves with purpose." Others said, "Jim's too busy chasing headlines while Push is out here defending history." So yeah, when that subtle clip of Pusha's message went viral, it wasn't just about defending Nas. It was about protecting the entire foundation of what hip-hop was built on: respect, artistry, and knowing when to keep your mouth shut. But this story doesn't stop here. Because what happens next? Let's just say Jim tried to clean up the mess, and somehow made it 10 times worse. It all started with a simple but cutting question that echoed across the rap world. Can you sing along to 5 Pusha T records right now? The tone wasn't playful, it was challenging. A shot fired on camera that made everyone pause. The interviewer pushed again. His records. Yes, his records. Yeah, name Pusha. The energy in the room changed instantly. It was no longer just conversation. It was a test of legacy. Jim Jones leaned back, smirking with that Harlem confidence. You could tell he was ready to stir something. He repeated the question with sarcasm, dripping from every word. Pusha T? Can you name 5 records? The question wasn't really about naming songs. It was about respect, about relevance, about whether Pusha T still held weight in the game. He added with a laugh, "I didn't know he had fans like that." That line hit social media like gasoline on fire. Fans started replaying it, remixing it, quoting it, and suddenly, a spark between 2 respected rappers became a full-on discussion across hip-hop circles. Jim Jones wasn't just questioning Pusha T's catalog, he was questioning his impact, his connection to the streets, and his place in rap's upper tier. But what Jim didn't expect was how quickly Pusha T's fans, and even neutral hip-hop heads, would rise in defense. Within hours, timelines were filled with clips of Pusha's classics. Numbers on the boards, If You Know You Know, The Games We Play, Santeria, Infrared, and of course, his unforgettable verses from clips and collaborations with Kanye. People started to remind everyone of what Pusha T represented, not just as a rapper, but as a lyricist who carved a lane of precision and authenticity. His pen was sharp, his delivery was cold, his history was rooted in the streets, but his presentation was luxury and intellect blended with grime. As Jim's comments spread, interviews began to surface where he doubled down. "I love your soul, my dog," he said at one point, "but you're not in my top 50. That wasn't just a disagreement, that was a public dismissal. For a man like Pusha T, who has built his brand on lyrical respect, that kind of talk couldn't just go unanswered. Soon, subtle responses started to appear, in verses, in features, in live shows. Pusha didn't raise his voice, but he didn't need to. He had that kind of aura where a few well-chosen bars could silence entire rooms. Fans dissected every line he dropped afterward, hunting for subliminals aimed at Jim. When Pusha rapped about people playing themselves trying to chase relevance, the internet went wild, convinced it was a coded reply. Commentators and podcasts began breaking it down. Is this beef real or just friendly competition? Some saw it as a lyrical sparring match. Others sensed deeper tension, something rooted in pride, maybe history. Then came the question of legacy. People started comparing the two artists, not by chart positions, but by what they meant to culture. Jim Jones, the Harlem hustler who helped define an era with Dipset's swagger, versus Pusha T, the Virginia wordsmith who made cocaine poetry sound like art. Both had authenticity, both had fans, but they stood for different eras of dominance. One about flash and street code, the other about detail and precision. The debate grew bigger than the two names. It became a generational conversation about what really defines greatness in hip-hop. Is it hits? Is it influence? Is it bars? Jim's supporters argued that impact mattered, that Dipset shaped fashion, slang, and energy. Pusha's supporters countered that skill and consistency outlast trends. Meanwhile, both camps stayed composed publicly, but behind the scenes, tension was rising. Studio chatter hinted that Pusha had something cooking. DJs whispered that he was preparing a verse sharp enough to cut through the noise, but true to form, Pusha didn't rush. He waited for the right moment. Then, one night, he stepped on stage and delivered a verse so cryptic yet confident that even people who weren't following the drama felt the weight. He never said names, but every bar felt pointed, calm, deliberate, final. That's when the narrative shifted. Pusha T had officially shut down the conversation without even calling names. Jim Jones heard it. The internet heard it. Everyone did. But instead of escalating, Jim laughed it off, saying he respected Pusha, but still stood by his opinion. The crowd read between the lines, respect mixed with pride, competition wrapped in professionalism. From there, the dialogue evolved into appreciation. Fans revisited Pusha's catalog, rediscovering how deep his lyricism ran. They also revisited Jim's history with Dipset, realizing how much he contributed to New York's resurgence. What began as rivalry turned into recognition of two different pillars of hip-hop, holding different corners of the culture. Still, interviews continued. Jim couldn't escape the question. Every podcast host brought it up. Would you battle him? Would you collaborate? Jim kept it consistent. He wasn't backing down, but wasn't seeking war either. We just from different worlds, he'd say, shrugging it off with Harlem cool. In a way, that's what made this moment so iconic. It wasn't just about two rappers throwing shots. It was about the conversation they sparked in the community, about respect, artistry, and the power of presence. Fans debated for months. Some called Pusha's approach masterful, the silent assassin energy. Others praised Jim for speaking his mind in an era of filtered opinions. In truth, both sides reflected something essential about hip-hop: confidence, competition, and the refusal to fold. As time passed, Pusha kept delivering bars with that same composed menace, while Jim kept dropping music and building his entrepreneurial empire. The moment might have started with a challenge. Can you name 5 records? But it evolved into something much larger, a mirror for the culture to look into. Every generation has these clashes that remind fans what makes rap powerful. Not violence, not chaos, but words. Words that spark dialogue, redefine legacy, and make us revisit what matters most: skill, authenticity, and heart. By the time the dust settled, there were no losers, only perspective. Jim Jones walked away with headlines and unapologetic confidence. Pusha T walked away with even deeper respect as a lyricist who didn't need to shout to make noise. Years from now, fans will still replay that interview clip and the verses that followed, not because of the drama, but because it perfectly captured what hip-hop is at its best: proud, passionate, competitive, and deeply rooted in respect for the craft. The question started small, but the echo of that question, "Can you sing along to 5 Pusha T records?" became a cultural timestamp. It reminded everyone that in this game, legacy isn't measured by volume. It's measured by the weight of your words and the people who feel them. And in that sense, both men won. One by asking, the other by answering without ever speaking his name. It all started with one simple but loaded question, a question that echoed through the halls of hip-hop and shook up social media timelines overnight. Can you sing along to 5 Pusha T records right now? It didn't sound hostile at first, just casual curiosity. But inside that question was a challenge, one aimed straight at the heart of a man who's built his name on bars, authenticity, and longevity. Jim Jones leaned back, smirking, that Harlem energy, confident, slick, unbothered. He repeated it again like he wanted to make sure everyone in the room caught it. His records? Yes, his records. Yeah. Name Pusha. The people in the room laughed a little, but everyone felt it. That wasn't just small talk, that was a spark, and everyone watching knew exactly what it meant. Then came the follow-up, sharp and unforgettable. "I didn't know he had fans like that." Boom. One sentence, and the internet exploded. Clips hit Twitter, memes started flying, comment sections turned into debate arenas. Because when a Harlem veteran like Jim Jones questions your catalog, especially when your name is Pusha T, it's never just a joke, it's a public test of your legacy. Fans started flooding timelines with reminders. Hold up, you mean this Pusha T? And suddenly, the music was everywhere. Numbers on the boards. If you know, you know. The games we play. Infrared. Santeria. They didn't even have to argue. The music did the talking. Clips from old interviews resurfaced. Studio sessions, freestyles, collabs with Kanye. fans weren't just defending an artist, they were defending a catalog, a reputation, a culture of lyricism that Pusha T represented. Because to them, Pusha wasn't just another rapper, he was a craftsman. Every verse was deliberate, every bar had weight. He built his world through imagery, wordplay, and the kind of street knowledge you can't fake. But Jim wasn't backing down. When he was asked about it again, he didn't soften the blow. "I love your soul, my dog," he said, cool and casual, "but you're not in my top 50. And just like that, it became official. It wasn't friendly teasing anymore. It was a statement. One man saying, "You're good, but you're not one of my greats." The hip-hop world froze for a second. Because you don't say that about Pusha T without consequences. Pusha didn't react right away, and that silence spoke volumes. He didn't need to rush to Instagram Live. He didn't need to tweet cryptic messages. That's not how he moves. When Pusha speaks, he does it through music, and his fans knew it was only a matter of time before he answered. Not with a post, but with a verse. Podcasts started speculating. Is Pusha gonna respond? Is this the next big lyrical battle? Is Jim really ready for that kind of smoke? Because if there's one thing everyone knows about Pusha T, it's that he doesn't do surface-level beef. When he responds, he digs deep, slow, surgical. Then came the whispers. DJs in clubs started hinting at something new. Producers said they'd heard a verse. Fans started looking for clues in Pusha's features. And then, one night, it happened. On stage, mid-performance, Pusha dropped a new verse. No names, no shouting, no theatrics, just cold precision. Every bar cut clean, every line landed heavy. He didn't have to say Jim's name, everyone knew. The message was loud, but the tone was calm, almost too calm. It was the sound of a man closing a chapter without ever flipping the page. That's when fans said it. Pusha T just shut it down. And in a way, he did. Not through aggression, not through ego, through mastery. Jim heard it, of course. He laughed it off, keeping that Harlem composure. He told interviewers he respected Pusha, but he stood on his opinion. That's pride. That's competition. That's hip-hop. And you know what? That's exactly what made this whole thing so legendary. Because deep down, this wasn't about hate. It was about two men who've lived the grind, two artists who represent different corners of the culture, both confident enough to speak their truth. Jim Jones, the embodiment of Harlem hustle, fashion, dipset energy, and street-level influence. Pusha T, the definition of lyrical sharpness, calculated delivery, and long-term consistency. When you put them side by side, you don't just get a clash. You get a contrast of eras, styles, and definitions of greatness. Jim stands for swagger and movement, the pulse of the block. Pusha stands for legacy and lyricism, the art of storytelling. And both matter. Both keep hip-hop alive. As the debate grew, fans began realizing that maybe this wasn't a feud. Maybe it was a reminder that hip-hop is still competitive, a reminder that words still matter, a reminder that respect is earned, not given. Because in the end, Jim gave Pusha the best kind of compliment, even if he didn't mean to. He put his name back into conversation, front and center, right where it belongs. And Pusha? He reminded everyone why silence can be more powerful than noise. It's the old school way. The kind of energy that birthed hip-hop itself. Two men standing on their truth, backed by their words, not their tweets. As time moved on, the tension cooled, but the echo stayed. Clips from that interview still go viral. Fans still quote those lines. And every time someone asks, "Can you name 5 Pusha T songs?" it starts all over again. Because that question wasn't just a jab. It became a symbol, a test of memory, a test of loyalty, a test of legacy. And that's what makes hip-hop timeless. It's not about who's trending. It's about who lasts, who leaves words behind that still spark arguments years later, who stands tall when the noise fades and the music is all that's left. Jim Jones stood his ground. Pusha T stayed unbothered. And the fans? They got one of the most entertaining hip-hop moments of the decade. No punches, no chaos, just words, the way the culture was built. So as the dust settled, one thing became clear. There were no real winners or losers, just two men reminding everyone why the game is still beautiful. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Because in hip-hop, the greatest moments aren't about destruction. They're about dialogue, about challenging, inspiring, and reigniting passion for the craft. So next time you hear that iconic question, "Can you sing along to 5 Pusha T records right now?" remember what it represents. It's not disrespect. It's not beef. It's a mirror held up to the culture, asking all of us the same thing. Do you really listen? Do you really know your legends? That's hip-hop. That's pride. That's history. And in the end, Both Pusha T and Jim Jones walked away with exactly what they came for: respect, relevance, and a reminder that the culture still pays attention. So, as this chapter closes, here's the question for you. Whose side were you on? Did Jim have a point, or did Pusha prove once again that silence can speak louder than any verse? Drop your thoughts below, and if you love real hip-hop storytelling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that define the culture. Because this isn't just rap beef, this is hip-hop history in motion.